Black, autistic, and safe. 3 adjectives you hold close to your heart when you're Black and you have a teenager or adult with autism.
Get on your stomach!
That's the sound of Eustis, Florida police officers yelling at a severely autistic, non-speaking 20-year-old Black man. According to West 2 News, in Daytona, the man had wandered away from his home in 2021.
Get on your stomach, dude! Get on your stomach! I don't want to do it again!
Someone called police to report a Black man about 6 foot tall with no shoes trying to open a door to their home. Police find him, tase him, and have guns drawn. It's Louis Grehai, and his family says he has a mind of a 4-year-old. He can't speak and wears diapers, but police think he's just not following commands.
Put your hands behind your back!
His mother, Roberta Cruz, showed up on the scene. She told West 2 News she was terrified that if he wouldn't have gone down when police tased him, they might have shot him. It's her worst nightmare. Medical Express reported in 2019 an estimated 1 in 5 teens with autism will be stopped and questioned by police before they turn 21.
When people go, police training, yeah, they do need to be trained, but it's not a 2-hour lunch and learn. You know, you can't give them a couple of donuts and some coffee and say, okay, now off you go.
That's Color of Autism founder Camille Proctor. She says often people with autism stopped by police aren't as fortunate as Louis Grehai. She shared how in 2012, 15-year-old Stefan Watts, diagnosed with Asperger's, was having a meltdown at his home in a suburb of Chicago, Illinois.
So the family plan, which they worked out with the hospital and the police, was that if Stefan got to a point where they couldn't handle him, they would call the police and the police would take him to the hospital. This particular day, things escalated, but then they de-escalated. So when the cop came to the house, the dad said, it's okay, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Well, the cop pushed the dad, who was very weak, out of the way, and they ran in the house. Stefan got scared and he ran to the basement. So when he ran to the basement, all the parents heard was pow, 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 pow. And he was dead. The cop said that Stefan pulled a knife on him, but it was in fact a butter knife. And so, you know, in my opinion, he was murdered in his own home.
She questions why other means couldn't have been used to de-escalate the situation. The Chicago Tribune reports officers have been called to subdue Stefan 10 times in the last 2 years, using tasers at least once.
I tell parents, stop calling the police on your kids. Like, the aggressive behavior does not happen overnight. And I'm not blaming the parents at all, because we do the best that we can. But the aggressive behavior does not happen overnight. And when you see it escalating, you got to figure out ways to de-escalate and create interventions to make that person feel comfortable enough so that they can calm down. But first and foremost, there just needs to be more understanding, more information, a little more widely disseminated within communities of color, so that we can do better in protecting them against police brutality or police murders. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. That's what happened to Stefan. He was murdered in his own home. He lost his life. And so imagine you being a cancer survivor at that point, and you, by the grace of God, you're at home to be with your family, and you just call the police and your son just got killed. And, you know, and sadly, Mr. Watts, he had to live with that for a while. He passed away a couple of years ago. But I mean, just imagine the guilt that he had to live with because of that incident.
Although Camille Proctor is an advocate for hundreds of parents with her organization Color of Autism, her fear of police interacting with her Black autistic son, who is now an adult, is a real concern. However, she says changing police policy and procedures starts in the Black community with education.
If we become stronger advocates for our children and stop denying who they are, and start to really build a community that embraces these people. And I think that the police, then we can start dealing with some of the systemic issues. But you see, when you have parents saying stuff like, I'll give you another example. I always have a parent who says, I don't want my son to have a label.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, fine, cool, no worries. Then he'll get 89418. What's that? His prison inmate number. And they're like, What you mean? I said, because you don't want him to have a label. So the school told you, what was that word the school said? Oh, he's oppositional defiant. You think that's a good term? So basically, you've just labeled your child bad. So you fed into the system of your child being a throwaway kid. He's bad. So you're just fast tracking him into the prison system, right? The criminal justice system, because you don't want to have a label. Oh, don't want to have an IEP? Don't worry. He doesn't need an individual education plan because you don't like the way that sounds. I said, but there's a little white kid in Harvard. He has an IEP in college. And you know what? He's probably going to get a PhD with it while yours sits in your basement playing Game Boy or whatever. It's fine. You don't need to make anybody's life better that's related to you and has your DNA. And they look at me because I don't, I'm to the point where I don't coddle people, because the reality of it is that Black people have never been coddled. And even when we do get coddled, we don't understand how to effectively force the change we want to see because we're too busy licking our wounds.
Some Black parents say the isolation from their own network of family and community keeps many in the dark about resources that are available or their rights.
My son is my passion. And Jeremiah was not diagnosed until he was 6 years old. And prior to his diagnosis, I experienced many barriers to getting to a diagnosis. He was being tested for everything but autism.
Janet Jones Jordan is the parent of an autistic adult and advocate for caregivers of children of autism. She, like other parents, says giving her two sons the talk or safety conversation Black parents often have with their children about what to do if stopped by a police officer is an ongoing process that evolves and is often complicated.
I know that he doesn't understand that safety is an issue for Black men in this country. I also have an older son who will be 30 next month. And just like I've had that, what we call the talk with him, I've also had that talk with my younger son. And my younger son is what we call a wanderer, or he will run, or he will, flee. And for that reason alone, I never allow my younger son to ride along in the car with my older son, for fear that if my older son is stopped for whatever reason, the blaring lights, the sirens, all of those things may terrify my younger son and he may start running.
Yeah.
And I think that in my family, we have a little of an advantage that some families don't have. My son's father is a police officer. My brother is a police officer. But again, it doesn't negate the fact that if something happens, Jeremiah may run because he's afraid.
A recent study by the Rudderman Foundation found that people with disabilities are more likely to be unjustly harmed by law enforcement. Researchers added in that report, it's safe to say that a third to half of all use of force incidents involve a disabled civilian. As of June 2021, the Legislative Analysis and Public Policy Association reported that 25 states have laws or programs that address mental health emergencies or ways to keep police from having to respond. One of them was passed in Illinois because of Stefan Watts.
Our family experienced a very traumatic event with the loss of Stefan. We knew Stefan's death would not be in vain. We knew that the community would rise and demand change.
That's Renee Watts, sister of Stefan, who says her family fought to get the governor to sign a law preventing police from responding to mental health emergencies in 2021. She gave a talk about it with advocacy group Disability Lead in 2021. Next week, in the extended version of Part 2 of our special report, Black, Autistic, and Safe, we hear more about her mission to change the system to make it safer for teens and adults on the autism spectrum in Illinois. I'm Esther Dillard on the Black Information Network.